My name is Rajah. I founded A Better World with my friend Brian Levitt in How I met Ken Hill might even be more of a providential way, that somebody is in the details planning these things for you, unbeknownst to you. I was at a wedding in Halifax, and I was coming out of the church and standing by a tree when Ken and his wife Hazel came out and greeted me. I had been in school with their son, and so I had some connections to Ken Hill. Just offhandedly, I asked Ken, "What are you planning on doing after retirement?" And he said, "No." I said, "I'm not planning on, I don't know what to do." He said, "I'm in good health. I'm retiring this year." And that was the year that A Better World was getting started.
1990.
1990. Wow. We had no clue what international development or work would look like. And Ken said to me, "I would be happy to go and look at this project for you." We had discovered a project that required some children who were crawling. That's all, that's how much I knew. And Ken said, "I'll go. I have time, and I would be happy to go."
All his own expense.
All at his own expense. He never asked for any money. We never paid him any money. He said, "I want to go and do this." So he made a trip. He found the place, and I still remember the phone call he made to me. He said, "Don't send any wheelchairs or crutches. Every child that I see will be able to walk. At least 95%, he said. I can guarantee you." It turned out Ken Hill was a professor and a specialist in polio, which I didn't know. And he was able to immediately see what the problem with these children. In 1999, I made a trip to visit one of our very first projects in Kendu Bay, Kenya, specifically to see a man by the name Dr. Ken Hill. He had been there for 10 years. And I had seen his work. He had been photos, I've seen his work in paper. He would come and make presentations. I was really touched by it. So I took a small group of people and went to see Ken. I spent several days with him as he took me from place to place, showing us some of the work that he had been doing. While it was so significant, which I had realized, he was taking children with polio, and he was providing them a future. He was doing the surgery and the physiotherapy, arranging for various kinds of rehabilitation that they needed with funds from A Better World. And today, for the first time, I had the chance that day to actually see what was happening. What touched me the most, and that has lasted me forever, is the way Dr. Hill did his work. His passion and his compassion. I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it in his life. All these children would come. They would walk through rocks on the road. They would have blisters. Some were bleeding. And he would take those children, one by one, sit them on a makeshift table, right in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. Hundreds of children would come. And he would touch their feet with his bare hands. And he would make notes, and he would tell me, for $50 we could do this, for $100 we could do this. In 3 days, this child could be walking, or in 6 months he could have a complete turnaround in his life. So that impression that he gave to me that day, I think was the most significant thing that has happened to me. I just simply wanted to do this day after day to make What really inspired me was, here is Ken Hill, goes for the first time, creates an amazing amount of impact. He spends 10 years in Africa. Every year he faithfully went for 1 month to 3 months. At one time he spent an entire year. And he changed the way people would look at disabled children. Because when the time he had got there, people believed that disability was a curse from God. And they would not bring their children for him to see because people took God's will for your life seriously. If you were disabled, that must be God's will, and no human should intervene. On one hand, he had the skills and the resources to make a change in a person's life. On the other hand, he was fighting the cultural sensitivities in this remote village where people were uneducated and simply accepted simply God's will for their life. On one hand, you have to say a lot for these people, how they're willing to. We weren't. So what Ken did was, he had to convince 2 or 3 parents to let their children come for surgery. When the children started walking, and the parents saw that their life had changed, they started slowly realizing that we had ways to restore the children. But Ken was also fighting with the local witch doctors who made money from letting the parents and the children think this was God's will. And they had to be included in the solution. I remember Ken Hill including the witch doctors in this. He would give them a cream and tell them after the surgery, you need to go and apply this. And that cream was nothing more than for dry skin, so that the witch doctors had a part in the role in restoring them. So he was a very incredible, and I learned a lot from his approach to things. So the first, he built the trust. Secondly, he showed the results. And thirdly, he was there repeatedly to keep earning that trust. Today, hundreds and thousands of children have benefited from his work. And a better word just happened to be, would be, in my mind, the ideal volunteer who has passion, compassion, skill, and more importantly, willing to generously share that to make other people's lives better.